Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we are doing something a little different.
It's
Uh,
different, yes.
Instead of our usual deep dive into a single topic or a couple related things,
Right.
we're going to do like a rapid fire round through all the biggest headlines that we've been seeing in India.
Okay.
So we're recording this on the 29th of March, 2025. And
Right.
yeah, just a ton has happened, even just in the last day. So I think this will be fun to just kind of go through and see what's going on.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of, for sure. A lot happening.
Yeah, so I guess let's just jump right in. First up, we got to talk about the IPL, right?
Of course, the
It's great
cricket season.
through the season, yeah.
So last night we had a pretty big upset.
Yeah.
The Royal Challengers Bengaluru took down the Chennai Super Kings
Wow.
at Chepauk.
At Chepauk, no less.
I know, and this is like ending a 17-year drought for them there.
Yeah, that's a long time to kind of have that hanging over your head.
So this was kind of a huge game for RCB, and they really
Mm.
pulled it off. Yeah, they really did.
And Rajat Patidar was really crucial there. He had like a well-crafted 51.
Yeah, gotta love a good 50.
Yeah, so, he really helped get RCB up to a pretty decent total,
Yeah.
196 for 7.
Okay.
But of course, it's never easy, right?
Yeah.
Even with a good total on the board. Noor Ahmad actually managed to dismiss both Kohli and Salt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was a little bit of a scare there for a minute. But Kohli still contributed, a respectable 31.
Yeah, that's still pretty good.
It was really Bengaluru's pace attack, though, that just kind of shut down the Super Kings.
Yeah, they had some big names on the mound.
Yeah, so Bhuvneshwar Kumar,
Yeah.
Josh Hazelwood.
Okay.
Those are names we know, right? And Hazelwood, he was just on fire. He got key wickets, including Gaikwad and Jadeja.
Wow, yeah, so taking some of the big hitters there.
And then Yash Dayal also got Dubey and Ravindra.
Okay, so really kind of shutting down some of
He
those
was dominant.
key players.
And Dhoni and Jadeja, did you know, try to put up a fight there at the end?
Yeah, that's what we expect from them, though, right?
They had some light fireworks, Patidar and Tim David also had a good finish for RCB.
Yeah, it was good to see.
So, but, Gaikwad, the CSK captain, he admitted after the game that they had some fielding issues, and the pressure of that target really got to them.
Right, if you can't field and you're chasing that high of a total.
And actually, this is RCB's second win of the season. They already beat KKR.
Oh, wow. Okay, so they're looking strong.
They're off to a really strong start.
It's a good start.
So, exciting stuff from the IPL. Let's switch gears, though, and talk about something a little bit more serious.
Okay.
Prime Minister Modi is actually scheduled to visit Colombo pretty soon. And during that visit, it looks like India and Sri Lanka are going to be signing a historic defense cooperation pact.
Okay.
So this is particularly interesting because it's coming almost 40 years after, the IPKF intervention
Oh, wow.
in Sri Lanka back in the late 80s.
Right, so that's a big kind of historical moment coming up.
So the Foreign Secretary Misri, he's actually already talked about this memorandum of understanding, and he says the goal here is to really bolster both economic and strategic ties between the two countries.
Interesting.
And, beyond just this defense pact, it looks like they're also going to be discussing a currency swap agreement,
Okay.
some debt restructuring initiatives, and even a possible joint venture with the UAE to help develop Trincomalee oil facilities.
Okay, so a lot of economic aspects as well.
So this is actually coming right after PM Modi's trip to Thailand, so it seems like India is really kind of
Making moves. Stepping up
their
there.
engagement in the region.
Yeah.
So, big developments there on the international stage. Now, let's move on to something a little closer to home.
Okay.
There's been a pretty interesting legal decision recently from the Delhi High Court. They actually overturned the cancellation of an overseas Citizen of India card. So this card belonged to an academic, Ashok Swain, who's a professor at Uppsala University in Sweden. And, his OCI was revoked last July over these allegations of anti-India activities.
Oh, wow.
Supposedly in his writings and speeches.
Right.
But the High Court, they weren't really buying it.
Really?
Yeah, so Justice Data, in his ruling, he said that criticizing government policies doesn't automatically make you anti-India,
Right.
which seems pretty reasonable, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to be able to,
Yeah.
speak your mind
Because
to a certain extent.
you have to be able to have dissenting voices. So the court basically told the authorities that if they want to try again,
Okay.
they need to come back with a fresh show cause notice and some actual specific evidence.
Okay, so they got to have some. They just scant to their argument.
Exactly. And it's also worth noting that this ruling mentions Swain's personal circumstances a bit
Oh, really?
because his mother is unwell and she lives in India.
Okay.
So, there were definitely some humanitarian considerations tied into this as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you think about all the different angles to a story like that.
For sure.
That's interesting.
Now, let's shift gears again and talk about the economy.
All right, always good news usually.
Yeah, so this is actually pretty positive.
Okay.
It looks like India's global capability centers, these are also called GCCs, they're booming.
Oh, really?
And the projections are pretty wild. They're saying that these centers could create something like 450,000 new jobs this year.
Wow.
And by 2029, that number could hit 1 million.
Okay, that's a lot of jobs.
So a lot of factors driving this growth. Obviously, we've got a very skilled workforce here,
Yeah.
supportive government policies,
Okay.
and of course, a really robust digital infrastructure.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, and a lot of this growth is centered around these major hub cities that you've probably heard of.
Yeah.
Bengaluru, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai.
Makes sense.
But it's not just, any old jobs. These GCCs are really focusing on high-value sectors like tech, finance, manufacturing,
Okay.
sustainability, which is great to see. And on top of that, there's also a big emphasis on diversifying the workforce.
That's great.
So a lot of these centers are aiming to have, over 50% female hires by 2030.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's really positive to see. And they're also putting a lot of resources into upskilling, especially in AI and ML.
Oh, that makes sense. You got to keep
Gotta stay
up with the times.
ahead of the curve, absolutely. So, overall, this is just a really positive sign for India's economy and its role in the global services sector.
Yeah, I mean 1 million jobs by 2029.
It's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good.
All right, well, let's move on to something that is a little bit lighter,
Okay.
but still, I think, pretty fascinating. So there's been a rediscovery of a moth species in India.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? So it's called Lemantria cannara. And it was actually last collected all the way back in 1951.
Oh, wow. So almost 100 years ago.
I know. And until recently, it was only known from a single specimen.
Right.
But researchers, they went back to Kerala in February of 2024, and they were using these light traps.
Okay.
And they actually managed to find a male moth.
Wow. So they're still out there.
I know.
That's great.
So this has allowed them to document all these really cool features like the fluffy antenna and pale pinkish hairs and distinctive black wing spots.
Okay.
So they even looked at the genitalia of the moth.
Okay. Well, I mean, you got to be thorough, right?
You gotta be thorough.
You're going to saw this area.
Scientist, right?
So this rediscovery was actually published in the Journal of Threatened Taxa
Okay.
by P.K. Adarsh and Abhilash Peter.
Okay.
And it's just, it's a reminder that there's still so much that we don't know about biodiversity,
Yeah, absolutely.
and there are these hidden discoveries just waiting to be made.
All the time.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the digital world now.
Okay.
And, specifically this clash that's been happening between the Indian government and that social media platform, X. Oh, okay, I think I saw something about this.
So the government has set up this compliance website, right?
Okay.
And it's meant to be a way for them to notify tech companies about, harmful content or legal obligations, things like that.
Okay.
But X has come out and labeled this website a censorship portal,
Okay.
and they're not happy about it.
I can imagine.
So they've gone so far as to file a lawsuit in Karnataka
Wow.
challenging this whole initiative.
Okay.
So they're arguing that this is an unlawful expansion of censorship powers,
Okay.
and they're worried about a lack of transparency and the potential for misuse.
Yeah, those are valid concerns, I think.
Yeah. But of course, the Indian Ministry of Information Technology, they've pushed back pretty hard,
Yeah.
calling X's accusations baseless. They're
Like
saying, look, this website is just about communication. We're not issuing blocking orders or anything like that.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a back and forth right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is all happening at the same time that Elon Musk is trying to get his various ventures off the ground here in India. Right, like Tesla and Starlink.
Exactly. So,
Geez.
it just adds another layer of complication to this whole debate about online regulation and how do you balance government oversight with these digital freedoms.
Yeah, it's a tough one to balance for sure.
All right, let's switch gears again.
Right.
We've got some big news in the defense sector.
All right.
India has just finalized a massive deal to buy 156 Prochand helicopters.
Okay.
So these are dual-engine combat helicopters,
Okay.
and the whole deal is worth a whopping $7 billion.
Wow. So that's a big investment.
Yeah, so this is one of the biggest defense acquisitions that India has made recently.
Okay.
And it really aligns with this push for, military modernization and self-reliance.
Right.
So the helicopters are being manufactured by Hindustan Aeronautics Ltd, or HAL,
Okay.
and the engines are actually co-developed with France's Safran.
Interesting.
So these things are pretty high-tech.
Yeah.
They can operate at altitudes over 5,000 meters.
66 of these helicopters are going to the Air Force,
Okay.
and 90 are going to the Army.
Okay.
Deliveries are expected to start within the next 3 years.
Okay, so pretty quick turnaround,
Yeah.
sounds like.
The Defense Minister, Rajnath Singh, he's been talking about how this deal is going to really boost India's combat capabilities and that self-reliance aspect of the defense sector.
Yeah, it's got to be a point of pride for them.
And actually, the first batch of Prechand helicopters was already inducted back in 2022.
Oh, wow.
And there's been some reports that other countries are interested in these helicopters too.
Okay,
So,
so kind of setting a precedent?
yeah, maybe a potential export opportunity for India in the future.
Yeah.
So, let's move on to some public health news.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we've got some outbreaks of avian influenza to report.
no.
I know.
That's never good.
It's highly pathogenic H5N1,
Okay.
and there have been 8 outbreaks reported in Andhra Pradesh.
Okay.
So this is according to the World Organization for Animal Health. These outbreaks have hit both farms and backyard poultry in the eastern part of the state.
Okay.
And it's already led to the death or culling of, over 600,000 birds.
Wow, so that's a big impact.
So this is a really big deal for these poultry-reliant regions
Right.
because they have to manage biosecurity really carefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's also, of course, economic implications and potential health implications.
Right.
So it's just a reminder of how important these global surveillance networks are
Absolutely.
and how we need to have effective communication between authorities and farmers,
Yeah.
and just continued vigilance
You got to be careful.
and research into these kinds of things.
Yes, absolutely.
So, this is a developing situation that we'll definitely want to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
All right, let's go international again for a second.
Okay.
This is some pretty sad news.
Okay.
There was a really powerful earthquake.
Oh, no.
Yeah. A 7.7 magnitude earthquake.
Wow.
That struck Myanmar and Thailand yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah, and it caused just widespread destruction, and there's been a lot of loss of life.
I can only imagine with an earthquake that strong.
So Myanmar has been hit the hardest.
Okay.
They've already reported at least 144 deaths and over 700 injuries.
Wow.
And there's been extensive damage, especially near the epicenter, which was close to Mandalay.
Oh, wow.
And to make matters worse, they also got hit by a 6.4 magnitude aftershock.
Oh, gosh. So even after the initial earthquake, there's still danger.
It's terrifying. So, sadly, it's likely that the death toll is going to rise.
Right.
And, this is a country that's already facing a lot of humanitarian challenges.
Yeah, so this is going to make things even harder for them.
I know. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Thailand was also affected.
Okay.
There was actually a 33-story building under construction in Bangkok
Oh, wow.
that collapsed,
Oh, my gosh.
and 8 people died there.
Wow.
And there were tremors felt in northeastern India,
Okay.
and some damage reported in parts of China as well.
So really widespread impacts.
Yeah, so this earthquake was really shallow,
Okay.
and that made the impact even worse.
Right, because it's closer to the surface.
Exactly.
Or more shaking.
And rescue efforts are underway, but the damaged infrastructure is making things really difficult.
Right. How do you even get to people?
Exactly.
If the roads are destroyed and things like that.
So, our thoughts are with everyone affected by this tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Prime Minister Modi has actually offered assistance to both Myanmar and Thailand.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Let's move on now
Right.
to a disturbing incident that happened at IIT Roorkee.
Okay.
5 students there have been charged with attempted murder.
Oh, my gosh.
I know.
What happened?
So they allegedly attacked a 24-year-old M.Tech student named Kishan Kumar Keshri,
Okay.
and it happened at the Govind Palan hostel reception.
Okay.
When he was returning to the hostel, they attacked him with glass bottles.
Oh, my gosh.
He had serious injuries to his head and face.
Oh.
And they continued to assault him until he lost consciousness.
Oh, that's awful.
So he was in critical condition at first, but thankfully he's now out of danger.
Okay.
But an FIR has been filed against these 5 students,
Oh.
and they've actually absconded, so they're on the run right now.
Wow.
So investigations are underway. But this has obviously raised a lot of concerns about safety on campus.
Yeah. I mean, that's terrifying to think that you're not safe in your own
It's shocking.
Poland.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully they're able to, apprehend these students and really get to the bottom of what happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
So some more news from the legal world.
Okay.
The Madras High Court has granted anticipatory bail to comedian Kunal Kamra.
Okay.
So Kamra had actually moved to Viluppuram, Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
And he said that's why he didn't go to a court in Maharashtra right away.
Okay.
But Justice Sundar Mohan accepted his explanation
Okay.
and granted him bail until April 7th.
Okay.
So he does have to execute a bond at the Judicial Magistrates Court in Vanor, but...
This is a significant development because it means that he's not going to be arrested immediately,
Right.
while all this is going on.
Exactly.
So, Kamra, he's obviously a comedian and a critic, and this is just another case where we're seeing this kind of...
Interplay between the law and...
Yeah, the intersection of, free speech.
Free
and
speech, yeah.
all of that.
It's interesting.
Okay, let's talk about history for a moment.
All right.
A British MP, Bob Blackman,
Okay.
he's a Conservative MP.
Ah.
He's actually called on the UK government to formally apologize to India for the Jallianwala Bagh massacre.
Oh, wow.
So this happened back in 1919.
Right.
It was April 13th, 1919.
Yeah.
And British troops under the command of Brigadier General Reginald Dyer,
Okay.
they opened fire on a huge unarmed gathering,
Oh, my gosh.
and over 1,500 people were killed or injured.
That's awful.
It's a really dark moment in history.
Yeah.
And Blackman is saying, look, there have been expressions of regret from British leaders in the past.
Yeah. But we need a formal apology for this horrible chapter.
Yeah, it seems like something that would be necessary to kind of move forward in a relationship like that,
Right.
for sure.
So, this is obviously a very sensitive issue, but it's an important one to discuss.
Yeah, it's not something that you can just sweep under the rug.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about India-U.S. relations.
All right.
The U.S. National Security Advisor, Michael Waltz, he's actually scheduled to visit India next month
Okay.
from April 21st to the 23rd.
Okay.
And the main goal of this visit is to advance something called the Trust Initiative.
Trust. What is that?
So TRUST stands for Transforming the Relationship Utilizing Strategic Technology.
Oh, okay.
And it was announced after a summit between PM Modi and then President Trump.
Okay.
So this initiative is all about collaborating in high-tech sectors like
Yep.
defense, AI, semiconductors, quantum technology, biotechnology, you name it.
Okay. So some pretty big sectors.
Yeah, so Waltz is going to be meeting with India's National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, and they're going to be unveiling all these cooperative measures and partnerships.
Okay.
And it sounds like they're going to be talking about critical minerals and export controls as well.
Okay. So a lot on the agenda.
Yeah, this is a big visit. Could really shape the future of the relationship between these two countries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now let's talk about the electric vehicle market in India,
okay.
because things are about to get a little more interesting.
Oh, how so?
So the Chinese EV giant BYD,
Okay.
they're planning to set up their first manufacturing plant here in India.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Where are they going to put it?
So it's going to be in Telangana,
Okay.
in Rangareddy district near
Yeah.
Hyderabad.
Okay.
And they're partnering with a company called Menai.
Okay.
So part of the reason for this strategic move is that BYD has been facing some trade barriers in Western markets.
Oh, that makes sense.
So they're looking to expand in emerging economies.
Right.
And India is obviously a prime candidate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, BYD is already a global leader in EV manufacturing.
They're actually known for this innovative blade battery technology.
Oh, okay. Haven't heard of that.
And they actually surpassed Tesla in global EV sales last year.
Really?
Yeah, they sold over 4 million vehicles in 2024.
Wow. So they're a big player.
So, their entry into India is going to create some serious competition.
Yeah.
Not just for local manufacturers, but also for Tesla, who's also trying to make inroads here.
Right. It's going to be a crowded market.
But India's EV market is growing super fast.
Yeah.
They're projecting it to reach 30% of the market by 2030.
Wow. That's a huge jump.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, one last story from the world of crime in Bollywood.
Okay.
So remember Shariful Islam Shahzad?
Refresh my memory.
He was accused of attacking actor Saif Ali Khan.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So he's actually filed a bail plea in Mumbai Sessions Court.
Okay.
And he's claiming that the whole case against him is fabricated.
Oh.
So, as a reminder, the accusations are that he tried to rob Khan at his residence back in January of last year,
Okay.
and that he attacked Khan and a staff member, Geeta, with a wooden weapon and a hexablade.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And Khan was seriously injured, had to have surgery, was hospitalized.
Wow, that's awful.
But Islam is saying that he's been fully cooperating,
Okay.
that he's not a flight risk, that the evidence has already been collected,
Okay.
and that basically he's being punished before he's even been tried.
Right.
So, the case was filed by Khan's staff member, and we're just waiting for the court's decision on the bail plea now.
So I have to wait and see what happens.
Exactly.
It's hard to know what to believe sometimes.
Right. Well, we're almost out of time, but I wanted to touch on one last story.
Okay.
This was a bit of a strange one.
Okay.
So, the chief minister of West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee,
Okay.
she was giving a keynote speech at Kellogg College in Oxford.
Okay.
And the whole point of this event was to try and drum up investment in West Bengal.
Okay. Makes sense.
But her speech was disrupted by protesters.
Really?
Yeah.
What were they protesting?
So it started with this guy, Dr. Rajat Banerjee.
Okay.
He was heckling her about, industrial progress or lack thereof. He even brought up the whole Tata Nano project withdrawal.
Oh, right.
And then things escalated when these two other guys, Sushil Dohwal and Jignesh Patel, they jumped in.
Oh, gosh.
And then members of the SFI, they joined the protest too.
Okay.
And they were accusing her of all sorts of things.
Like what?
Election violence, central government cases, you name it.
Oh, wow.
So, Chief Minister Banerjee, she tried to defend her government.
Okay.
She was saying, look, this is not a political event,
Okay.
but obviously it kind of turned into one.
Yeah. It's hard to separate those things sometimes,
Right.
especially when there's strong feelings.
So eventually, security had to intervene.
Oh, wow.
And the protesters were holding up all these placards with their accusations. So, Chief Minister Banerjee, she talked about her own personal story and her rise to power.
Mhm.
And she criticized the protesters for their behavior, and she appealed for decorum.
Okay.
But yeah, it was definitely not the kind of publicity that she was hoping for.
Yeah. It sounds like it kind of backfired.
So I think that's all we have time for today.
Okay.
We covered a lot.
We did, yeah.
I mean, from sports to international relations to legal battles to natural disasters
And moths.
and moths.
Yeah, and mocks.
So, it's just a reminder of how much is happening in India right
So
now.
that's the time, yeah.
It's a very dynamic and complex country.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us for this special headline edition of The Deep Dive.
It was fun.
We'll be back soon with our regular deep dives.
Yeah.
But until then, stay informed and keep exploring.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.